Initially, I did not want to do my praise speech about my dad. I thought it would be corny. I thought it would be obvious. And then when I thought about it, I said, nah, a good dad is not a dime a dozen. So I decided to do the speech about my dad because my dad never dropped the ball. My dad worked every day, played his music, and ate dinner with us almost every night. So that's not corny. He's worthy to be praised. My dad was a great provider. He earned his gold watch, 30 years, federal government, and this was after the Air Force, the whole while playing his music. My dad was a tall, lanky, long, solid, basketball built kind of guy. And all during the course of the week, you would see him hiking and lugging his second wife, his upright bass, and his amplifier. And he'd be lugging that over to his Fleetwood Broom Cadillac because he loved his Cadillacs. And my dad was known throughout the tri-state area, even up New York. He was known all over Atlantic City. He was known in many places. And he could have played professionally. And he could have went to Europe and Paris, but he chose to stay home with my mom and us. And he felt this was the right thing to do. Not that he said it, but you could see it in his every being. And he played with big bands, trios, quartets, the Breslin Trio. He was highly sought after, and he was highly disciplined. And he would always say, never marry a musician. But he was a good one, though. He didn't do drugs. He didn't drink excessively. He was not self-centered. He was not overly selfish. He was a dad and musician. And he just, he loved his music. But above all, he loved his family. Family first. And my dad and my mom had 5 children. 4 girls, 1 boy, which was funny because he came from a family of all boys, 5 brothers. So it was always interesting with him talking to us. And he wanted more children. And the family would say, hey, don't you have enough? But here again, he wanted more children. My mom was happy with just 5. And he would talk with us all the time and say, don't you be out there playing with those boys crying. Don't cry with the boys at all. He would tell us, his daughters. And don't let them see you sweating. Be true to yourself. You could be anything you want to be. And he would tell us that. And this was over dinner. And except Fridays, he would fry fish because he had a gig. So before he left out, he would fry the fish. We would eat the fish. And then he would put his cologne on, grab his bass, and head out. And this was our norm. And Saturdays, we would watch Sanford and Son, Dr. Shock, and Star Trek. And that was our special thing, me and him. That was our special thing, my quality time with my dad. And my dad had 5 mouths to feed and a great wife and dogs and cats, and he would pick up strays. And we even had a dog flown in on an airplane from Indiana, and we called him Lucky. And you could come in the house at any given time, musicians playing or just having a set, getting ready for gigs. My dad juggled. He juggled and managed many things. And but this was normal. Music, jazz, Coltrane, Miles Davis. This is my dad. This is what he did. My mom even went back to college, and he stepped up. Unselfish, as she was always selfless with him. And so when I think about my dad, what I think about is to thine own self be true, a quote from William Shakespeare. And that has negative connotations as well, but positive connotations too, as the situation is. And my dad would sit and drink coffee with my mom and laugh and talk in the morning as we were on our way to school, and providing, protecting, food and shelter. We had no worries. My dad was true to himself, and he kept his commitments, made his commitments, and this was his commitment. This was his truth.